order.
Okay.
May 18th for the supervisors meeting. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is consent agenda. Do it have any board comment? Public comment.
Motion to approve.
What's that?
Move that we accept it.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any public comment? All in favor of accepting the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so going to board motions, presentations, resolutions, we have a presentation for our amazing chief of police. But before we do that, I just wanted to recognize Michael Wasey is now Dr. Michael Wasey. He recently received his doctorate this past weekend, right? At George Washington University, in AI and machine learning. So congratulations. And moving on to the retirement of our police chief, David Upson. Said your name right. Upson.
Yep, you're good.
It's tough. So I wanted to read the citation of recognition to you and then give a chance for anyone who would like to say anything to you as well. Chief David Upson initiated his service as a police officer in Easttown Township in February of 1997, and during that service interval, Dave served as patrol officer, sergeant, detective lieutenant, and chief. And whereas for years, Dave made an unwavering commitment to public safety and acted bravely, professionally, and unselfishly. And whereas under Dave's leadership, the police department built and maintained the safety of the community for the past, present, and future citizens of Easttown Township. And whereas after almost 30 years in service, Dave is retired in June of 2026. The township wishes to recognize Dave's accomplishments, proclaims its appreciation of Dave's service, and wish him well in his retirement. Now, therefore, the Board of Supervisors of Easttown Township, Chester County, Pennsylvania, hereby recognizes Dave's accomplishments, proclaims its appreciation of Dave's service to Easttown Township, and declares its best wishes to Dave in retirement. Congratulations. Thank you.
We all have some nice things to say before we let him speak and things.
Yeah. Like, take a look at your future. Right?
Thank you.
So we'd like to.
Sure.
Michael.
Okay. So practically the second person I met when I became supervisor was Dave, and it has been an incredible experience to know him in that time frame. The one thing that I can say that explains like how he runs his police department, how things go, is there've been a number of things I wanted to do, like go see the fire company, go see the sewer, whatever. And in every case, I would say I was escorted, right? There's never anything like that with Dave. Dave was like, you want to go ride with the police, go ride with, he has such a strong leadership style, such a, he guys, his officers up to such a level that, it's just amazing. I have never seen anything like it. I don't know what to call it, but it's just amazing that it reflects on who he is and all that. So then we fast forward, right? And then, so I've known Dave all this time. And then there's this movie coming out, The Mayor of Easttown. Ever heard of that, right? And we find out that Dave is now a part of that and going forward. And I think that's fantastic. He's taken his career here where he's done a fantastic, wonderful job. And now he's moving into something, he's leveraging it into something fantastic, just as fantastic. So I expect to hear great things going forward. So thank you so much for what you did for the township. I think it's great for you. It's a terrible loss for us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Likewise, I've only been here 4.5 years in this spot, and Dave, I appreciate all the transparency and just the willingness of the good, the bad, and the ugly, and just make sure that hey, we need help here, and just always so forthcoming with stuff. It's been a pleasure to work with you, so I really appreciate it these last 4 or 5 years.
Thank you.
I've been here less time, but one of the first times I got to get to know you was at a very difficult meeting in Beaumont, where you escorted me out to, you want to ride next. Yeah, I barely knew you. Want to ride to your car across the street. And we talked, and it was very welcoming, felt very safe. And as a resident here for 20 years in Easttown Township has been recognized just how well and how well our police department has served our community. So thank you for your leadership, your service, and I know you're going to be greatly missed.
Great miss. I'm a 30-year resident of this township, and I also think that I've always appreciated the police, even when they stop me speeding down the road.
Very infrequently.
Very frequently. But always it's a great experience.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Dave, three attributes I pulled out to talk to you about. First is wisdom. Whenever I had an issue and I was down there talking to you, I always emerged with, hey, that's a pretty sensible thing that Dave just told me. That was great confidence in the technical advice and how to solve a problem. Always appreciated that. Second is strength. You found the sweet spot. You knew when to be relatively soft and say, hey, I think we're just going to let that one play out. But when you needed to be, there was no trouble at all. When you had to say, okay, well, so sometimes I would come down and say, hey, Dave, blah, 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 blank, blank, blank. And you'd say, no, nothing to worry about. That one was settled. We took care of that one. So you always knew how to find the right blend of for the approach, very strong. And then third is likable. You were fun to work with. You're a great guy to have around the office. We enjoyed chatting. So as good as you were at the other stuff, you're also a great coworker and a good friend to all of us. So for me, a little bit of a role model. I came to this a little later than you. So appreciated seeing you there. Appreciated you helping me during my transition into this. Thank you.
Very kind. I'm good. Real quick, I just want to thank the board. Absolutely thankless job that you guys do. Andy, who's guided me through more than one share of messes, and he's done it admirably. I've always appreciated Don, John, even, yes, Colleen. Best staff I've ever, I tell Mike this all the time. He's very fortunate. He's getting a great board and a great staff, and I greatly appreciate it. The true heroes are the officers. They always make me look good, honestly. Without them, none of this is possible. There's some times I'm winging it, obviously, and they always step up to the plate. So the credit, all this credit really should go to them. And last, my family, I want to thank them who have the other thankless job, which is going to be putting up with me on a regular basis now that I'm moving home. But I've enjoyed my time here. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. And now I'm gonna do something I always wanted to do, is leave a meeting before we start. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sorry to fail on your meeting. I appreciate
They're
it.
missing some exciting stuff.
He sat through many.
Moving on to our next item is point of our audit.
Sure. Sue, introduce everybody where we are, and then Colleen has the presentation on the
Okay,
big screen.
Dale is here primarily to present the 2024 audit. They worked tirelessly to get it done for us, went above and beyond. I appreciate it. I know we all do, and Dale's here to do this presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Before we start, we get to go back. This should be really exciting for him.
Good luck.
Well, I wouldn't really tell him that he's about to miss the best part. Okay, so my name is Dale Oppenheimer, as Sue said. I am the principal auditor on the financial statement audit for the township. Tonight, I'm going to go over the key financial statement items and then some other items that are required to go over with the Board of Governance whenever we do an audit. So the first slide is the key financial statement line items. They're broken down between governmental activities and business type activities. So the business type activities is the sewer fund, and then the governmental activities is all of the governmental funds. This is like on a full accrual basis, so it's focused on all governmental activities for the government wide, not just the current resources. So in 2024, we had cash of $9,657,376, capital assets net of accumulated depreciation of $20,235,867. Deferred charges related to the refunding of previous debt of $106,472. Escrows of $912,730. long-term debt of 19,690,000. And then the net position is broken down into three separate categories. The first one is the investment in capital assets, net of related debt. And that is just the amount of the capital assets less the long-term debt, and that gives us 1,809,887. The portion that's restricted from outside sources is 3,533,845, and then the portion that's unrestricted is 3,651,713. I provided 2023 numbers for comparison purposes. Those numbers are from the predecessor auditor, and they were not part of our audit. On business type activities, in 2024, there was cash of 1,533,551. Capital assets net of accumulated depreciation of 30,448. And that was the net position in invested in capital assets net of related debt, and then the rest of the net position was unrestricted. The next slide.
Can I ask questions now?
Yeah, of course.
When you say the capital assets of the business type activities is 30,000, is that the total value of the existing sewer plant?
No, the sewer plant is on the sewer. The sewer plant is in the governmental activities.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the way the municipal authority is rolled up into the government is that it's reported as an internal service fund, which is a proprietary fund, but a proprietary fund that rolls up into the governmental activities. So it's a little weird.
Yes.
For lack of a better phrase. So you'll see in the financial statements, instead of seeing the direct amount, you'll see a reconciling item showing that amount.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
The next slide is the net position. And this is again is broken down between governmental activities and business type activities. And this just shows the net position amount for the last 4 years, ending with 2024. We had net position of 8,995,445 for the governmental activities and 1,546,890 for the business type activities. Over on the next slide shows our changes in net position for the year. So for the governmental activities, our revenues were 13,908,559. The expenses were 12,895,888, giving us a net change before transfers of 986,593. We had transfers in of $26,078, giving us a change in net position for the year, positive 1,012,671. Business type activities had revenues of 5,278,858, expenses of 5,707,819, for a change before transfers of a negative 428,961. The transfers out 17,378, giving us a negative change for the year of $455,039.
Can I ask a stupid question? This is my first audit. What are government activities as opposed to business type activities? Could you just give me a real quick?
Yeah, sure. So business type activity is anything that's supported by user fees, anything that's kind of being run like a regular business. So
Okay.
that would be sewer, water, trash fees, like anything that's an activity that supports itself with user fees.
Okay,
If it's something that has to be supported by the township, like say you don't charge enough for trash for it to support itself as a sustained program, then that would get continued to
Okay,
roll up
got
in
it.
there.
thanks.
The next slide is the general fund budget versus actual. So our final budget, we budgeted revenues of $8,360,061. The same amount for total expenditures, and we also budgeted for $353,500 of other financing sources. We budgeted for a change in the year of a positive $353,500. The actual amounts came in at revenues of $8,840,128, which was a positive budget variance of $480,067. Our total expenditures came in at $8,375,669. Was a negative budget variance of $15,608. Our other financing sources and uses came in at a usage of $91,812, giving us a negative budget variance of $445,312. And that gave us a positive budget variance for the year of $19,147. The next slide shows the governmental fund balances and the breakdown between the 5 categories of fund balance in there. So non-spendable, that's something that's in a non-spendable form like prepaid expenses or inventory that can't be readily exchanged for cash. That amount for the year is 0. The amount restricted by outside sources is $3,533,845. There's none committed, none assigned, and then the unassigned portion is $2,544,503. The next few slides are just required communications with the supervisors. I'm required to tell you the objective of our audit is to plan and perform an audit to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement. Keywords there are reasonable assurance. The audit is done in accordance with U.S. generally accepted auditing standards, and we had an unmodified clean opinion, although we have an emphasis of matter in the opinion for the basis of account. The significant accounting policies are described in the notes, and there were no significant transactions that were lacking authoritative guidance in the current year. We had significant disclosures related to long-term debt and pension and OPEB liabilities, along with the related deferrals. There were no difficulties or disagreements with management, and our audit adjustments were posted. Well, actually, they're being posted as we speak by management. The last slide just talks about some upcoming guidance that we have for the 2025 audit. It's GASB Statement 102, concentrations and constraints. It just deals with what it says, if there's any concentrations of revenue, any concentrations of labor that might be coming due, constraints on raising revenue, things like that. It's disclosure only, but that'll be effective for December 31st, 2025. By and large, we found that it does not have a significant effect on our funds. With regards to the 2025 audit, I'm told that we'll be able to start in a few weeks, and then we'll be rolling full steam ahead with that going forward. So hopefully I'll be back here in August with them 2025 results. And then going forward, we'll get on a more regular schedule, getting it done earlier in the year. Any questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Appreciate it. No problem.
Talk to you soon.
Have a good rest of your night.
Mr. President, is there any public comment on the 2024 audit? Okay. Moving to the Newtown Road Sidewalk Professional Service Agreement.
Yeah, Colleen will sort of take us through this, give us a snapshot and tell you what's before you.
Sure. So the township was awarded a grant in the amount of $996,000 to install sidewalk along Newtown Road from Durwood to Beaumont. The PSA in the packet is from Bowman, and that is for the design, public bidding and construction inspection of the sidewalk. So the PSA should not exceed, and that is all of the tasks that are required to do the sidewalk, should not exceed $300,000. So tonight we are asking for approval to move forward with township staff signing the PSA for Bowman to go ahead and start the survey and design of the sidewalk and associated ADA ramps.
Sorry, for original estimate for the cost of putting the sidewalk in.
For the installation, the construction was $996,000. That's what their cost estimate was for construction.
So the 300,000 for Bowman would be on top of that. Or is that included?
So that would be separate, yeah, so the $996,000 is what we were awarded in the grant application for the construction of the sidewalk. So the $300,000 is separate, so that would be the township's responsibility to pay.
Okay, and if at some point the government determines it's going to be more expensive than that, wouldn't be able to. What will we do at that point? I guess, or can we just assume it's gonna work?
For the construction purposes or for the design?
I'm more worried about the construction purposes, assuming it ends up costing 1.5 million instead of 900,000 to construct. When will we know that, and what will we do about that?
So we'll know during the design phase, they're going to obtain the existing conditions right now. So they'll go out and do a survey to find out exactly what's out there. They're gonna start the design, and the township has requested Bowman do the center of the design to see if, the road has to be shifted, if a retaining wall has to be installed, anything along those lines to see if additional work will be necessary. So they'll get a cost estimate for that. So if it's going to cost any more money, they'll have to come to the Board of Supervisors and request additional money. However, once we put it out if the design gets completed, right, everything looks good, and we put it out for public bidding, and the construction cost comes back way high, way more than $996,000, it will be put in front of the supervisors, because they're gonna recommend award, or they could request rebidding.
So awarding this doesn't guarantee that we're gonna
Yeah.
go forward.
Yeah, there would be at least one waypoint, and the first waypoint will be the most complex part of the design, because that's where it's most likely to become expensive, so you'll get a heads up. And it might be, hey, it isn't worth it, we liked it at $1 million, it isn't worth it at 1.9 million. So,
And even at the very end, the board always has the power to reject all bids. And presumably, as we get close, it's not unusual to have a bid package to include alternatives. So if you have certain cost worries, you can have the bidder say, here's the base bid and here's add-on A, B, and C, and then you'll have choices potentially at the time you award it.
We have an opportunity to get more grant money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Is that crosswalk? Is that the beginning to the crosswalk?
It will, so it's gonna go from, Derwood along Newtown. It will cross, so there'll be ADA ramps at all corners at Newtown and Beaumont. And then we're gonna have sidewalk that comes across the frontage of Hilltop Park. And it will cross, Beaumont to the front of the elementary school. So a crosswalk will be over there, so people, with the installation of the sidewalk and the crosswalk, it may encourage people and parents to park and have their kids cross safely at that crosswalk versus just sitting in line and clogging up the road, waiting their turn. And sorry, I don't mean to keep talking, but prior to the final design, the supervisors will be able to look at it and, give their concerns, issues, compliments, anything along those lines.
Motion to approve the construction service proposal for Newtown Road. And that would be for both construction services and the engineering.
That is correct.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, moving on to Route 3 corridor complete streets and issue study.
So this is a continuation of the existing study. Again, this was a grant that was awarded to the township to complete a study along Route 30 from Lakeside to Leopard to evaluate, traffic patterns, to consider a road diet and whatnot along that section. Chris Williams from Bowman is going to give an update to everything that has been completed, all of the public workshops, meetings, steering committee meetings, and at the end of his presentation, he is going to request from the Board of Supervisors to choose an alternative to move forward so Bowman can start the process of preparing a concept plan for one of the alternatives, or if there is an alternative that the supervisors would also like. So, Chris, hand it off to you.
Very good. Good evening. So I need to say at the opening that I was not expecting to be the one delivering this presentation. I was here for moral support. Randy Waltermeyer is who you're accustomed to seeing at these presentations. He got delayed at another meeting. He is on his way. I wasn't sure I was going to be here, so I'm going to do my best to do a little tap dancing and get started. He'll be walking in the door and he'll do the heavy lifting with any serious questions you have. But you should have received a memo and graphic that looks a lot like this. So just a little bit of background, right? So this was fully funded, with the exception of, I think, a minor supplement that the board approved for some safety evaluation that PennDOT had requested. But outside of that, this was fully funded as an LSA grant to look at a complete street study, complete streets evaluation of the Route 30 corridor, essentially from Leopard Road to the west, Lakeside Avenue to the east, going through the heart of Berwyn Village. We started off with a total of 7 alternatives. We narrowed that down to 5 alternatives. We have a series of alternatives, and if you refer to the graphic, 1A is basically do nothing. That's keep the existing configuration. So that's really not an alternative. 1C, 1D, and 1E maintain a 4-lane cross section on Lancaster Avenue through Berwyn Village, which is essentially 2 lanes in each direction. Now, there are areas where it is 5 lanes, meaning there's center left turn lane, but through the heart of Berwyn Village, it is 4 lanes, 2 lanes in each direction. And then alternatives 2A and 2C were the road diet alternatives, which in those alternatives were dropping from 2 lanes in each direction down to 1 lane in each direction, but we're introducing a 2-way center left turn lane. So I think you'll all remember we developed, in consultation with the Planning Commission, we developed basically a set of goals and objectives, a scorecard, if you will, as to how this project would be evaluated. And that's what you see on the right-hand side of the page. So there were a series of goals that were established under the category of safety, well, traffic analysis, and then safety, multimodal, parking, just placemaking, economic vitality, and then quality of life. And then we've evaluated each of those alternatives as to how it, whether it meets the goal or does not meet the goal. What you'll see, and I'll go back to the left side of the page here in a moment, but what you'll see on the right-hand side, everywhere there's a green box or a Y for yes, it means that alternative met that goal. What's pretty obvious is under alternatives 2A and 2C, which are the road diet options, which drops, again, just through the heart of Berwyn, it drops it from 2 lanes in each direction to 1 lane in each direction, but creates a center left turn lane. And then what that also does is it creates more width and real estate that we can work within the existing road width to do other things, right? To provide on street parking.
I interrupt here. Did not include the negatives of that choice, right? 2A and 2B. I don't see anything about the negatives of that choice.
So you're right. What it's doing is it's whether it met the criteria. Right? These are the rules that the steering committee.
Negatives of anything. What you're saying.
It either met the criteria or did not meet the criteria, as outlined by the steering committee. So just a little bit of background to refresh your memory. We've had some pretty robust public engagement, both with business community, with the public. The outcome of that is there's strong support from the public for one of the road diet alternatives. What's interesting is you'll see the little question marks at the bottom in yellow. So PennDOT has not yet given their blessing. So with PennDOT, we've narrowed it down to 3. So PennDOT, right now, PennDOT is supporting one of the 3 options that are highlighted in yellow. They are holding on to alternative 1E and then alternative 2A and 2C. So 2A and 2C are the road diet options where it drops from 4 lanes to the 3-lane section. So 1E, if I go back to the left side of the page, 1E is a variation alternative. It is not an alternative that we started with in this project. 1E was an alternative that PennDOT introduced kind of more than halfway through this project. So they threw us a little bit of a curveball. 1E through the heart of the village. Again, today it's 2 lanes in each direction. PennDOT suggesting keeping it 2 lanes westbound, only 1 lane eastbound, and then that 4th lane could be a 2-way center left turn lane, which PennDOT's very interested in the 2-way center left turn lane from a safety standpoint. 2-way center left turn lane is also helpful from a traffic flow and capacity standpoint, because by getting the left turn vehicles out of the through lane, it opens up the flow of traffic within the through lanes, right? So what happens today on occasion, not even on occasion, quite often, in the 4-lane section of Route 30, if there is a left turning vehicle, they stop within the inside through lane, effectively stopping the flow of traffic within that inside through lane. So when there is a left turning vehicle, it by default, it almost reverts into a 1-lane situation because the inside through lane is stopped or is occupied by a waiting left turn vehicle. So alternative 1E is a variation that PennDOT introduced midway through the project, or even, like I said, later than midway through the project. They're still interested in alternative 1E, and they're interested in the road diet alternatives of 2A and 2C. So that's just kind of a little bit of background. Certainly, we could go through all the different measures of effectiveness that were outlined. But you do see at the bottom where it says summary of feedback. So the business community, the public workshop, strong support for alternatives 2A and 2C. The planning commission, which is the steering committee, they rendered their support for 2A and 2C. They weren't really, they didn't pick. It's almost like having two different flavors of ice cream, right? They wanted chocolate and vanilla, so they couldn't really select which flavor they wanted, right? But the steering committee, the planning commission supports 2A and 2C. So let's talk for a minute. What is the difference between 2A and 2C? The only difference between 2A and 2C is what happens at Midland Avenue. So 2A, we maintain a traffic signal at Midland Avenue, which is what it is today. Under 2C, we would introduce a roundabout at the Midland Avenue intersection. Roundabout, clearly it's going to cost more. It's going to have real estate right-of-way impacts, right? It creates a much larger footprint, but it's very different, right? It's kind of a nice, kind of welcoming feature. It's kind of a gateway feature. It lets people know, hey, I'm in the village of Berwyn. It really changes kind of the feel of traffic flow because everyone traveling through a roundabout is required to do so at a relatively slower pace. Whereas with a traffic signal, when the light's green, you can move. And if, at 2 o'clock in the morning, you can move through the village of Berwyn, whereas the roundabout, you're always slowing down. I see.
How should we decide on that in Midland Avenue when we're spending $30,000 to look into alternatives to Old Lancaster Road?
Yeah, so we're doing that initiative, right? That study is underway right now. So we will be, as that study is underway, we will sort of connect these two studies together. So as we are looking to changes to Old Lancaster Road, we will kind of plug that into what ultimately gets selected in this study.
How can we decide one without knowing the other?
This isn't the second one is more for this portion out, isn't it? Is it sort of, that's my recollection.
Well, the Old Lancaster study is just Old Lancaster Road and Lakeside Avenue, right? So it's almost independent of what we do on. But so in the Old Lancaster Road study, we will be looking at changes of traffic flow, and we'll be looking at how those intersections operate. And if they're not operating effectively, we will test the Old Lancaster Road traffic flow in ramifications, I'll call it, against either a traffic signal or a roundabout. So we will bake that into the Old Lancaster Road study. So again, 2A, 2C, the only difference is the roundabout versus the traffic signal at Midland Avenue. Both 2A and 2C within the village of Berwyn and drop it to 1 lane each direction and create a center turn lane. What's also consistent with every one of these options is at Bridge and Old Lancaster, the traffic signal at the western end of the corridor. That is our most problematic intersection. You may recall that from our earlier presentations. That's where we have the most congestion. That's where we have the most queuing. It's also where we have the most pedestrian volume from the school. What's consistent in every one of these alternatives is we're suggesting the realignment of Bridge, because right now they are offset. And if we can realign those, we can achieve much more efficient traffic operations, more efficient traffic flow. Again, not a simple project, right? It is going to require right away and land acquisition to do that. But this is a plan that's going to guide us to the future, right? It doesn't mean it has to get done tomorrow, but this is, we want this plan to be the plan for the future. And if we can solve that, and we believe it's possible, if we can realign Bridge opposite Old Lancaster, that will greatly improve traffic flow at that intersection.
Excuse me, you only looked at realigning it on the eastbound side. You didn't talk to Tredeffen about realigning it on the Tredeffen side.
On the Old Lancaster Road side, we did not, because that would involve rebuilding a bridge. And that will not happen in our lifetime. To realign or to rebuild a bridge over the Amtrak line will be 50 years and that still will not happen. So,
But I'm sorry, it's attitudes like that that means it never happens. If you don't start somewhere, you never get there. So if we started now, it would happen in our lifetimes, is my, yeah. Okay, but so we just didn't look at it because.
no, we looked at it. We did look at it, but we, in consultation with the planning commission, we decided it just the timeline for that is not realistic to think that it's something, and the cost, right? That would be cost prohibitive. It just adds to the challenge. Anything's possible if we want to wait long enough and spend enough money, but to realign bridge in and of itself is going to be a big project, but that is more attainable than building a new bridge over Amtrak. Great example. Tredyffrin Township has talked and has been working and with Amtrak for years to try and redo the bridge under the Amtrak line on 252, just north of Route 30.
That would be fantastic. Yeah.
And they haven't, and that's been in talks for 20 years. And Amtrak has no intention of letting that happen, and there's no money to do it. And PennDOT's been a part of those conversations, so that really has stalled. It's gone nowhere. And we want to, the goal here is to come up with a project that we think is attainable, that we can realize a benefit within a reasonable amount of time. But even that, it's going to take several years to happen. So again, in every one of these alternatives, that realignment is consistent. What's different, the differences are somewhat nuanced under 2A and 2C. It's incorporating the realignment, but it's doing so within the 3-lane cross section, right? So you can see a single lane through lane in each direction and then a center left turn lane behind the intersection. And then in the other alternatives, 1C, 1D, and 1E, it's more or less maintaining, well, 1C and 1D is maintaining the 4-lane section, 2 lanes in each direction on either side of the intersection. I guess of the 4-lane of the 4-lane options, 1C and 1E are the most desirable of the 4-lane options because those options introduce a dedicated, if you'll see well, it's probably not in green on yours, or it's just, are they looking at the same one? Okay, good. It's introducing dedicated left turn lanes, which is very helpful for safety and for traffic flow.
Why is PennDOT crazy about 1E and 2A and 2C so much?
Why are they in support of
why
those?
why is they supporting those options?
I think PennDOT likes the road diet alternative. They like the addition of the center turn lane. They're being respectful of the public feedback and the steering committee, the planning commission, and their support for 2A and 2C. But PennDOT hasn't quite fully committed to the road diet concept of a single lane in each direction and a center turn lane. So 1E, if you look at the figure there, 1E is showing, if you look at the intersection of Bridge and Lancaster Avenue to the right side of that intersection, it's showing 2 lanes westbound and then a single lane eastbound and then the center left turn lane. So if you think about that intersection today, eastbound Route 30, it's a very heavy left turn movement to go up into Tredyffrin to go to the school.
Right.
So what that does is that causes, when that left turn movement is going, it stops all of the westbound traffic. So that's a delay impact to the westbound flow. So PennDOT's thought is, okay, to counteract, because we're holding up the westbound traffic for the heavy left turn movement up into Tredyffrin, they want to maintain capacity. And you can do that better with 2 lanes than with 1 lane. So that way, when the light does turn green, you're flowing 2 lanes of traffic and not 1.
Mm-hmm.
So they believe, they see the capacity and traffic flow benefits of 1E, but it's really at that intersection. So there could even be a variation on 1E where we maintain that 4-lane section just at the Bridge Street intersection. Right now, we're showing maintaining that 4-lane section of 2 lanes westbound, 1 lane eastbound, and a center left turn lane all the way through the Village of Berwyn. We may not have to do that if PennDOT says that they like the idea of one lane in each direction and the center turn lane to the east of that intersection. So we've had a lot of discussions with PennDOT through this project, way more than we ever anticipated when this project was first scoped out. We had scoped this project out as sort of one check-in meeting with PennDOT. That's the way it was sort of all kind of collectively scoped. We've had several meetings with PennDOT and several phone calls with PennDOT and sharing of information. This is a big lift for PennDOT, right? So this is their road, and so this is a lot for them to wrap their arms around. So they haven't fully committed, and they're sort of working at their pace, and their schedule isn't necessarily our schedule, which is why they've not committed to an alternative. The positive is we've got them down to 3. We were hoping to have PennDOT come forward with what the one that they would prefer, or the one that they most endorse. Similar to the way the Planning Commission has done, right? The Planning Commission has kind of narrowed it down to their top 2, which are, again, they're almost one and the same. It's roundabout or traffic signal. PennDOT's not there yet. We were hoping to have them on board at the same time, so that way when we come to you this evening, we're asking you, hey, well, here's what your steering committee has said, here's what PennDOT has said, here's what the public has said. What do you think? What do you like? So let me, at the end of the day, we do hope that the board is able to make a recommendation for any, whichever alternative you desire, right? This is not my preference. This is just the scoring. This is the feedback that we've gotten so far in the process. Where we are right now in the process is we basically have completed all of the technical work. Kind of the background that has kind of narrowed us down to this the next step in the process is, okay, we need to select an alternative to develop a plan. So we want to go beyond stick figures and actually develop a concept plan that lays out an alternative so that we can look at it and really see, well, what does this all mean? What are the impacts of doing this? And if it is the road diet alternative, well, what does that get us? Does it, we can introduce, where would we have pedestrian crossings on Route 30? And if we were to reintroduce on-street parking along Route 30, what would that look like? Or if it's one of the 4-lane options, we would do the same with the 4-lane option, right? What do these intersections look like? What does the realignment look like in greater engineering detail? So the goal at this point in the process is for the board to select an alternative that you want to see a concept plan for. You're still not picking your preferred. If you pick a plan or an alternative for a concept plan, doesn't mean that has to be your preferred at the end of the study. You could pick something else. We are only scoped to do one concept plan. Logically, you would think, ideally, you would pick an alternative for a concept plan, and if you like the plan, that would be maybe at the end of the day, the option you select as your preferred, but it doesn't have to be.
The alternatives all had a speed of like a vehicle going through the town, how quickly somebody could, but that data is not on, so I don't really know which one of these is quicker or which one is slower.
So 2A and 2C were, I believe the quickest, because by virtue of, again, any alternative that introduces that center left turn lane through the village were the quickest options. Because it gets, again, today when a vehicle has to turn left.
Wait. You didn't put in here any of the negatives of these things, right? You keep talking about positives like this. When traffic acts like a fluid, right? When traffic hits a funnel point, it slows down, right? Without a doubt, right? It actually swirls, right? People don't actually swirl, but the flow of the traffic swirls when it hits a constriction point. So it's not going to go faster through fewer lanes. It's a constriction point. It may go faster coming out, right? Because that's the Vectoria effect. That's what's going to happen. It's coming out of the constriction point. It is going to go, let me finish. It is going to go faster coming out, right? So by putting this here, you're going to slow people coming into it and speed people coming out of it. And what I expect would happen, just like the example you gave on 252, is people will find alternatives, and we will end up with, yes, maybe there'll be less traffic on Route 30, but that's because there's more traffic on Sugartown Road because they're avoiding Route 30 because of the constriction point. I don't understand that.
So it just seems to me you're voting for 1A, and when the time comes, that's the one Like that's.
I
why
want to
we're here.
explain to my peers
Yeah.
why I'm so adamant
Yeah.
about this, that we're not even given the whole
So
story.
you're supporting 1A.
Well, or
and they're
1C.
Telling,
So 1C maintains the 4 lanes through the
Yeah.
village, but it improves the intersection.
Yeah, I like the realignment. I think that's a rational thing to do.
Chris, I was at a meeting, at Hilltop where you showed the results of the traffic modeling.
Right.
And what I heard represented, if I heard it correctly, was the existing configuration of this, using your mechanical metaphor, this causes so much head loss in the pipe that when you realign this, the benefit you
Opens it up.
get from this offsets the harm you get. So those are just the numbers, but the numbers that they showed at that meeting indicated that the traffic flow was improved because of the realignment of the
That-
problematic.
And you're absolutely right, Tom. So that is the key intersection, right? If we can fix that intersection, that's the clog in the pipe. And if you fix that clog, remove the clog, it allows traffic to flow through the rest of the corridor.
So if any of
Midland,
these plans other than 1A, fixing that intersection would be the cheapest because they all include fixing that intersection. So we should do that and then see where that goes.
that would be, I mean, that is, you could phase it. I mean, that's another option, right? You could phase this and fix it. The problem is fixing that intersection. It's probably got a long lead time, but again, money and time is not an option. Yes, fixing that intersection alone will have the biggest benefit for improving traffic.
And arguably from the scope perspective, the scope of the project was not to fix the intersection. The intersection is being fixed as part of the scope or do the other things. That doesn't mean that you could select 1A and then invest in fixing the intersection.
Right. But I'm deeply troubled by the idea of making 230 skinny down for a section that is stand out. That literally makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
I understand the concern.
The issue that I have with the current design, the way that it currently lays out, actually in all of Route 30, not just in our township, but elsewhere, is the left lane in both directions is a de facto left turn lane, right? If you drive for 5 minutes down Route 30 in the other direction, the left lane, you will get hung up at a light and pass by all the cars that you were in front of in the right lane. It will happen every time. So by default, if you have to drive 15 minutes down Route 30, you're stuck in the right lane the entire time. So if this can then change it so that instead of 2 traveling lanes in each direction, you change it from a central turn lane and make cars merge already into the right lane where there's plenty more room to do that and not cause that congestion, it should in theory speed everything up. I know it's not perfect, but it just fundamentally makes sense to do that versus end up with all of these clogs and all these congestion areas where there are cars that try to travel straight in the left turn lane and wind up with these clogs at the intersection. It fundamentally makes sense to me. I understand what you're saying, that you're going from 2 travel lanes in each direction down to 1. But because you have these left turn constrictions at every intersection, it improves the traffic flow, and I think it makes sense.
But not every intersection, because we do have a lot of places where there's a center turn. Not everywhere, but there are a lot of
Not
places
here. Yeah.
Where the Trader Joe's is, like, there's certain spots for sure.
From Midland East, we have a center turn lane. It's west of Midland, we do not.
But like same thing, go down through Wayne or St. David's or something like that. Like you can't even drive in the left lane. You get hung up at every light, especially in rush hour. It's a nightmare. So you just sit there in the right lane, and you just camp out the entire time.
or you find an alternative. I do that. I don't go down Route 30, I go through the back roads.
You go over Gulf or something like,
But I appreciate, I get it, and I appreciate the comments so the whole concept of a complete street study, which is what this study is. It's not just about moving traffic, right? So the approach that we took with this project, and the planning commission has put a lot of thought and time into and sort of shaping this project with us is, and then working with the public is looking at the scorecard criteria that was established, which alternative not only accommodates traffic, but there's a safety element, but then there's the walkability element, right? So, if traffic or pedestrians are going to cross Route 30, which alternative is more desirable for a pedestrian crossing Route 30? Is it a 4-lane section or is it a 3-lane section? Well, the answer is again, I know pedestrian is not the only factor to consider, so I get it. But from a pedestrian perspective, it is better to cross a 3-lane road than a 4-lane road. Then you have
Center island, for the safety island, so they don't have to cross the whole thing.
and those are sort of the ideas we will look at as part of the concept plan, is looking at how we can And the other thing you can do in a 3-lane section is you can sort of bump out the curb and you can move shorten crossing distance at the intersections. Obviously, the 3-lane section, the business community likes the opportunity to introduce on-street parking in front of these businesses, which we don't have today. So there are pros and cons. Like I understand, there are absolutely pros and cons to every one of these alternatives. We trying to look at sort of holistically, looking at all the different criteria. This is how it's spread
Right,
out.
but my argument right now, or the thing that's setting me up right now, is you only show the pros of those two options. You don't show the cons of those two options, which I think is misleading as to what we're trying to make a decision about.
I mean, you could argue if it's, well,
No, you show yeses and nos for some of them, and the two options that we get right, you show only yeses. So you're only showing the pros, you're not showing any of the cons.
well,
Unless you're telling me there are no cons.
well, so
Two on the right.
well, the two on the right, so your concern is traffic flow. And if you look at the top row across, which is the traffic analysis, every one of these so there were more alternatives to start the project.
You're not answering my question.
I
My
know.
question is,
I know.
you're only showing the pros for those two options.
Chris, are the only pros?
Let me try to answer the question. So your concern about net cons is just relative to traffic flow. What I'm
Maybe there's others I'm not aware of.
Right, well, let me just answer the cons or the pros relative to that. We started with more alternatives. There were some that were dropped out because the traffic flow didn't work, right? You've all heard the traffic engineers talk about level of service. Certain alternatives did not achieve the acceptable level of service, which I think we were striving, whatever, D or better, C or better.
And with 20 years out,
Right.
double the growth rate to throw pretty much as much traffic at it as we could. None of us want to sign on to a concept that won't hold up to that type of stress.
So the point is, each of these 5 alternatives passed the level of service criteria for acceptable traffic flow. So I guess we're not seeing it the way you're seeing it in terms of the negatives to traffic flow.
There are just two negatives, congestion and money, right? Because congestion is the source of all the other negatives. So like time and congestion are just one and the same. So some of this is from my involvement in the other sections. But these alternatives evaluated it from the perspective of congestion. And the determination was that they are superior to the baseline.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then it just becomes your.
Baseline being
your
U9.
neg- Yeah, baseline is 1A.
Right, so you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so as I understand it, that the loss of this is so great that when you realign that, the benefit you get from realigning it offsets any other aspect of the narrowing that would occur. The two factors are working at odds.
That's one, and get the benefit, ignore the deficit, don't take the deficit, just get the benefit from the realignment.
So, very good. You could do that.
Could do
And
that.
it isn't this is why we are here, to get this feedback from you. If you do that, it is not a complete streets project, which it doesn't have to be. It's only a complete streets project if you want it to be. Your mandate to them and to us was complete streets, which is why all of these other positives are being shown to you.
Don answered that much better than I did. It was absolutely
How
right.
many, I have another question. How many additional parking spaces do a 2A, 2C provide?
So we'll get into that in more detail if the board chooses that, one of those alternatives as the concept plan alternative, we will actually kind of dial that in as part of the plan, and we'll actually locate kind of what we think. But we did an initial crack at it, and I think we were up about 30.
Yeah, there were about
spaces.
9 existing and shoehorned all in on the south side, and that can go up to
About 30.
30 is about our first
But
block
we'll
range.
fine tune that.
And it's 30 with keeping sidewalk and a bike lane or something like that, like
It's
it's.
no bike lane, but sidewalk and pedestrian
And that's for
crossings.
2A and 2C.
So there'd be one travel lane and parking on that side, right, is what you're suggesting?
There would be, right, so
Right, so then anytime somebody's coming in out of a parking lane, it'll stop the traffic.
that will, yeah, that will. That's your good point.
Yeah, question, it sounds like 1A is a winner for you. So
Well, I like the realignment, yeah.
Question about the roundabout. Actually, 2 questions about the roundabout. First of all, you mentioned, land use impacts, to the,
Yeah.
the orange. What are they? I know this is not a fully vetted design,
far
but
from it.
like what would it look like? Would you need additional space from all four corners in order to make it work? Is it like on one side only just to enlarge it? Give me an idea what that looks like, because it's a lot of, there's existing development projects there, there's existing large shopping center, there's a farmer's market, all the shops. Like, what kind of impact are we looking at if we buy off on a roundabout in that area?
I mean, Randy.
I can take this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
So it depends on how many lanes you're trying to keep on Lancaster Avenue. That's very much driver number one. If you're trying to get a 3-lane cross section like 2A or 2C, the outside diameter of that is going to be anywhere from about 130 to maybe 150 feet. So the fastest, quickest, cheapest thing you could do is we could open up Google Earth, draw right into the middle of it, and come out 150 feet. That's about your range of impact. Now, as I think you would do there, Old Lancaster comes in on like a little crooked alignment. So you'd see getting 150 feet to work there is not a slam dunk, if you will. If we pick one of the let's say 1C, now granted, right now we're not entertaining that, but if you say we want to keep a 5-lane cross section, that roundabout now becomes 180, almost 190 feet.
But that's
at which point
that's
then but roughly speaking, 2C, and again, I think that's the compelling, I'm sure it's been asked before. The decision in front of you is which of these would you like to see more detail on?
Right.
A benefit advancing to, and we're willing actually, because they're so similar, to if you'd advance either 2A or 2C, they're so similar, we would move them in parallel.
Yeah, I had said that. So if you're interested in the 2A or 2C, we could look at the signal option or the roundabout and look at them.
The reason I'm asking is because if it's going to impact the corners, there's areas where there's development by right. If we would have to go back and revise something like that, I mean, we would be potentially evaluating something that could turn out to be litigious or could take even longer than it otherwise would. So again, it's not saying it can't be done or that I don't want to pursue that. It's like, what would we be getting ourselves into with something like that? It still sounds like even in a very compact type of roundabout, it's still going to be a very significant size that would probably need to borrow real estate from all the parts of the
It would
intersection.
probably, just given the way that intersection is oriented, it probably would minimize impact on the Handles corner, but it's probably more likely going to impact the other 3 corners. That's my initial guess.
This is sketched in at scale on page 2B.
Yeah,
And that's just a first blush, like 25 half-hour text out of it.
Understood.
Yeah, that's
The
just confusing.
concern with that, just the way that you drew it, understanding it's you just took 10 seconds to draw it. But it's encroaching on the Berwyn Square property, which, is a current development lot. It would be a hot button issue to then, encroach on that development.
We would, and at the time that sketch was drawn, Berwyn Square was sort of
Right.
in limbo, right? Nobody knew what was happening. If we are to look at that now, we would look to balance impacts and minimize impacts as best we can.
Fair.
But there will be impact.
Okay, good to know. Appreciate that. Second question on the roundabout. Pedestrian and walkway and walkability. There's a lot of kids, teenagers, families that cross in that area because sometimes they want to go to Handles or the farmer's market. They park in an area that's maybe south of 30. And then they'll walk in that area, or they park in the shopping center and then they walk across. Roundabouts don't give you a red light and a traffic light that kids can walk across and have everyone stop. There's constant flow of traffic over there. Are we introducing something that's a potential safety issue with if people are still parking south and walking north? It's more likely to be kind of an accident, waiting to happen with that.
So one of the advantages of a roundabout is they are proven to be safer. They have, so whereas with a conventional.
And by the way, I love that, by the way, so
Yeah.
I would like it to work, but it's just.
Yeah. It is a question we commonly get with roundabouts, no doubt about it. One of the benefits of a roundabout is all traffic is traveling through at like 20-25 miles per hour, right? So the days of, you know, green light and you're moving through at 50 miles an hour. You can't do that in a roundabout. So with a pedestrian crossing, even in with a conventional traffic signal, light turns green, a pedestrian crosses, there is still that conflict of a vehicle on that same side street making a turn and conflicting with, so you still have those conflicts, but the beauty of a roundabout is pedestrian only has to look in one direction, right? You look to your left and you cross, and you can do every crossing in a two-stage movement because you cross to the center splitter island, and then you can wait if need be, you look to your right, and if there's a gap, then you cross. So the other thing you can do, and we've done this with other roundabout projects, is you can introduce flashing yellow signals. So when there is a pedestrian, they hit the button and they get a flashing yellow for the crosswalk. So there are ways, there is nothing is perfect, but this roundabouts are becoming more and more common. This is what is commonly done.
And just
And one last thing, if you've been through Swarthmore, have you been through the center of Swarthmore?
been a few years.
Roundabout right downtown in the center of Swarthmore. You know, there's a train station there, Swarthmore College.
I love the arboretum there, by the way. It's beautiful.
And but the roundabout does a great job with SEPTA buses and pedestrians, and the community loves it, and it's been very, very safe and effective.
And I do like the idea of a roundabout being in this area. It's a central town square type of area. There's opportunities for artwork or other public displays or something. And so like you don't want to put stuff in the middle of the road, but like it just finds itself as a genuine, normal kind of waypoint with that. So it just lends itself to be more of a town square type of feature type of thing. So again, I'm naturally attracted to the idea, so I kind of like it.
It would seem to me that it would be logical to evaluate it only if to rule it out. So if you evaluate it, you might come back and say, hey, this is crazy.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't evaluate it, then you'll never know.
And if the board selects 2A or 2C, as Randy said, we'd be willing to do both.
Yes.
If for no other
This
reason.
doesn't look
to
like,
rule it out.
the other one doesn't look like it's terribly much harder than that one. That's the one that would have all the significant.
I personally like 2A because it has everything that everybody and all the people that live in Berwyn want, like more parking, a friendlier street. More comfort, safe. I just think it's a really nice option to a. Where to see.
Is there even a necessity for, I don't know, I'm not a fan of roundabouts, I know Alex is, but I find them kind of sometimes confusing or just kind of like.
You're one of those who go the wrong way down.
No, I don't go the wrong way, I just find that they just I don't know, when I get to them, I'm like, great, it's a roundabout.
That's why they're so safe, because they don't go around very fast.
Right, no, I don't, no, I mean, they got the one on Newtown Road, the one
Certainly
down
at low speed is safe.
Yeah.
on Newtown, you know, down by St. David's,
Yeah,
like, I know that one, and that,
It's sort of scary.
yeah, you got the one coming in, but it's not, I don't know, I don't see a roundabout as
Their
necessary.
history is, or the data is they cause less accidents and less severity in the accident.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, you can't
Yeah.
be T-boned
Yeah.
unless you're really a knucklehead.
And then the
In a-
severity
in a
of the
roundabout.
accident would also, so while these
Lower
things
speed.
might cause fender benders, the significant reduced likelihood of the high impact, high fatality.
Yeah,
I have no problem with a roundabout, I don't have a problem with evaluating it. I was just wondering, like, why, like, are you proposing that because you want that, like, pretty aesthetic kind of welcome to the village feel, or is it because you really want to reduce traffic speeds, accidents, and so on? That's
Well, I mean, I think at the beginning of the project, we were challenged to think big, and the steering committee, the planning commission, they wanted to think big, and so. In the interest, roundabouts, you know, do also have the benefit of traffic calming, because everybody has to travel at a slower speed, and that in and of itself promotes walkability if everybody's traveling at a slower speed. But there's real feasibility challenges, I mean, I don't tend to think it's gonna work, right? We really need to look at this more closely if you think you're interested in it, it's gonna be a challenge.
And it's a component of the complete street. It's not really a component of the improve the intersection at Bridge. And so it does those elements to complete street. You know, are part of the component.
I know that the business community really wants more parking in Berlin. I mean, that's something I know that's been brought up, and the importance of that. So I think it's something we have to address and look at least.
I agree.
And it's been on the comprehensive plan for about 9 years now.
Right,
To add
right.
parking for one.
But I understand Michael's problem as well, of this, the idea of, are we gonna push traffic onto the side roads? Are people gonna be like, I don't wanna drive down, because I'm gonna be, you know, we're gonna be stuck here,
It'll be-
therefore I'm gonna go back.
More
on the
pleasant.
Back roads.
Which side road would you travel on to bypass that? Like, if you gotta go 15 minutes down Route 30,
I mean, if I wanted to miss
you go on
that,
202? Like,
no,
Switch road.
yeah,
And-
just come
and then-
around.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can, at one of the planning commission meetings, you did show the traffic simulation. I don't know if that's.
Yeah, the only thing I would, another way I can answer that is we looked at the estimated time and we looked at it pretty much Lakeside to Leopard and we took it right out of the same model that we simulated. So just if like, let's do a quick comparison here. So let's take option 1C, which is almost the most widening we would add. So you would come cranking, you would get through the old Lancaster intersection as quickly as possible because there's left turn lanes, right to the most capacity. So we're anticipating in the morning, it would take you 111 seconds to come Lakeside to Leopard, 105 in the evening, eastbound.
Is this during?
That's school, that's 7 to 8 AM, 5 to 6 PM.
Buses and all that stuff.
Yeah. So,
It's your commuter rush
Yeah,
hour.
it doesn't take into account the afternoon schools.
so let's just remember 111 and 105. Point is, when you come back to, let's now go look at 2A, the 3-lane round. The AM stays 106. I think, what is it, 105? It's statistically negligible. Now here, the PM, it's 135. So on average, so what was that? That's about a 20-second increase in delay that's from the 1C. That's the Cadillac, throw all the capacity at it you can. My point is 20 seconds is in the scheme of your commute or is not I would say you're maybe not gonna see as much diversion as you may be afraid, because 20 seconds just kind of comes and go. You hit a signal wrong and your 20 seconds go by. So I'd be really concerned if these numbers for the road diet were, say, doubling 210 seconds, 280 seconds. We're not seeing that. They're pretty significant. It all goes back to the bottleneck is we've cleaned up old Lancaster. You gain it with whichever one, and you really have the blessing of thinking of, well, if once we clean that, what else do we want to do in the village? Because we know we have to fix that, and then you can think about what other goals of the project you want to achieve.
What type of parking were you thinking? Were you thinking like
Parallel.
parallel parking?
Yeah.
So that's the concern that you have, right? This
Oh, yeah.
person's gonna stop and have to park. Everyone's sitting there waiting for them to learn how to.
Respectfully, though, your business owners are telling us they
Yeah.
want parking right in front of their door. They don't
That's
want
what
to have
we
to
want
go,
address,
yeah.
For sure.
There's not a borough or village in North America that doesn't have parking like that, correct? Like that,
Yeah.
so this is that if you don't want that, then get rid of all the rest and just do one.
So when I first heard about this, and listening through these things, I started thinking about areas around here, like Westchester, like, Banning, like Ardmore. And areas that have, they all have similar things, the Sea Road and a downtown or a village type area, right? And what I was, our purposes were Easttown, or when, of all those things that we could do. So one that seemed the most rational, the most likely was the media example, because the media, they have Baltimore Pipe building south of the city, town or whatever, and then the town north of that, right? And that way they got a bypass that people can go on, barrel down, however you want to say it, and use, and they have a nice walkable area. Route 30, no matter what we do, is not going to be, never going to be a walkable area. I would have to say, unless we, I would have to say that, in the way that Main Street in media could be, like Main Street in media that goes down in the summertime, so they can have dinner out, people can have dinner on the street kind of thing. We'll never be able to do that on Route 30, right? So to me, again, I'm talking long-term vision, our vision should be something more akin to what media is set up as than Ardmore. I don't think we'll ever be Ardmore, which is sort of, I mean, Ardmore doesn't have a big street, but they do have one in each direction through majority of Ardmore.
But these areas right here, these intersections that they are making these changes, they're proposing these changes towards make these streets. This does have the most highest density of pedestrian walkable areas currently.
Yeah, yeah.
There's sidewalks, there's points of interest, there's
Yes.
parking, so like this is where we see the pedestrian traffic.
Right, I'm 100% for pedestrian, biking, all those kinds of things. I think, if we could hide Route 30 to do it, that'd be great, but winnowing down Route 30 to do it is, I think, gonna backfire.
But it's not like if we do this, then the pedestrians come. It's like there are pedestrians there now. This improves it for them.
Right, and clearly we have the problem with the sidewalk on the other side, the northern side, right? In front of the train station, there's no sidewalk, you're taking your life in your hands, which I'm sure people do, I've done, I'm sure people do. Putting a sidewalk over there would be great, yeah.
Let me just, Rick, if I could, and maybe Chris teed this up in the beginning, if he did, forgive me, apology for being late, but the fundamental decision in front of you tonight is not which of these is your favorite, and you have to pick, and we'll finish the plan on that conclusion. It's simply, we have scope to take one or two, if you go with the kind of the 2-for-1 package, to advance further, and we would bring back to you a concept plan as long as this table. And that's really the only decision you potentially need to make this evening. And that, I would think that plan, especially if we come back to, I think everyone, we don't need to give you much more detail on what 1A and 1C look like. I think we all well know what it looks like. I think respectfully, coming back to you with a plan as wide and detailed as this table, you could further consider the pros, the cons, and trade-offs of either 2A and 2C. And if the agenda item for another night or maybe never would be, which of those do you want to ultimately proceed for?
And ultimately, you look at that plan. I mean, the improvements to Bridge and Old Lancaster is consistent essentially with each of these alternatives. So looking at that plan, you may decide, listen, we're not ready to go ahead with anything other than that, right? So phase one could be fix that intersection and do nothing else initially, right? Until maybe later in the process. But yeah, I mean, to Randy's point, and I did say it earlier, right? You're not picking your preferred alternative, just to have, you're picking which plan do you want to better understand.
And there's an enormous gap between even if you pick one, there's an enormous gap between that and implementation. It's a world of difference between them, so it isn't like you got 3 minutes to make a decision and it's gonna be that way for the next 200 years. It's gonna be very difficult to build this.
This is still planning, right? A lot has to happen for this process.
I got two more questions if I may, Mr. Chair. Mike, from an enforcement standpoint, any preference or prejudice on any of the options? Like this is going to cause a hardship for police posting up, to ensure safety during, heavy nights and handles or something like that. Like anything like that we're missing?
No, sorry, but not a fan of roundabout, but throw that one in there. No, I'd just be curious what the data is as far as the traffic flowing. Obviously, we just want the traffic to flow and flow safely. Nothing really sticks out now. Again, the roundabout screen, I've got questions. How people are crossing there safely.
Do we have many pedestrian incidents today?
Sorry?
Do we have many pedestrian incidents today? I don't recall any.
Knocking on wood there, did I see you? I agree.
So that was one second one. Tom, any wisdom or thoughts as well to impart to the board, like any strong opinions? You would recommend against this or recommend to do this. Just curious what your opinion is.
Yeah, so good question. When we were in front of the planning commission a few months back, at the conclusion, we asked ourselves, in the end, can we get good sidewalks on both sides? And what option would alternative would achieve that? And then, given the precious amount of parking, what option, such as going from 9 to 30 spaces, is important? So part of the TCA scope was parking procurement, and we interviewed the SEPTA person in charge of the parking lots. We were delighted to find it's only $2 a day. We thought it was $2 only at night, but it's $2 the whole day. And
That's double. It used to be $1.
yeah. And I've had the
That's true.
I've had the unusual task of doing lighting inspections either at like 4:30 or 5 a.m. or at midnight in Easttown over the last 6 months. And I've been, after I finish the lighting inspection, wherever it is, I then drive the whole study area. I look at what vehicles are parked. I've only found 3 vehicles on the north and the south side Berlin parking lot on both occasions. For some reason, 3. I don't know if it's the same 3 vehicles or not. But if at the end of the day, we can get the sidewalks on both sides, including the one in front of the Berlin train station where you have to walk sideways, that would be huge, because when we had the pop-up farmers market on June 6th, and we interviewed a lot of the moms who sincerely expressed the desire to have the sidewalk there. And they said, absent that, we just won't walk there. We're going to cross the street. We could go 1 block south to get out of harm's way. So if we can get the sidewalks on both sides work in a smooth, continuous way, I think that's the number one outcome from a streetscape standpoint. And then the second is on the parking procurement. We just haven't had very good luck to find little sleeper opportunities. There might be some leasing opportunities. SEPTA said they would not entertain any. There is some leasing, as you probably know, along Lancaster Avenue, facing Lancaster Avenue. There's the signs there for the tenants inside that building. But they said because Amtrak actually owns the parking lot, SEPTA manages it, they won't entertain it. The only places that they will is where SEPTA actually owns the lot, like in Lansdale, and they'll entertain a deck parking structure, lease parking, and so forth. So whatever sleeper opportunities we have for on-street parking, it's going to be valuable.
I appreciate that, Tom. The last note that I'll make is we have, Princetown that's in that area, right? So there's pedestrians, at least it's increased from what it was 5 years ago. And then there's also potentially Berwyn Square. Who knows what the status is with that timing or anything like that, but if it gets filled with 104 families or whatever it is, it's a lot more potential pedestrians that could be in that area. So in my opinion, it's important to make this as pedestrian, walkable, friendly as possible, traffic calming and stuff. So, Mike, knocking on wood, make sure there's no, pedestrian accidents, stuff. I think it's important. If there's gonna be another 100 families in there, it increases the chance of an accident if they stay the way they are.
So are you in a position to give them the guidance that they're looking for, which is the alternative to evaluate? That's a fair assessment of what you're
To develop concept.
I would say, again, you could look at the roundabout, it's gonna work. I agree with, fan of it, but if you want to look at it, that's fine. I would be willing to do everything to it. If that's an alternative.
18MAY2026, you guys say that it's not a big deal to evaluate the roundabouts part of it. Yeah, I'd love to take it with an offer.
That's where I am too.
Oh, actually.
I'm absolutely against 2A and 2C. I think it's going to turn into a disaster for our township, but I'm only one of 5. So I get that.
Well, and again, just to preface this, or just again, like we look at this, we might say, throw all that out, just fix the intersection.
Yeah, and the data might prove that, like what they give you might get 5 people who see the disaster that you see. But it's gonna
At
be
least get
informed.
See.
Everybody's position will be more informed at the end of this.
In order to at least bring it to a vote, you need a motion second and public comment is
Okay.
I think I'm hearing the majority motion would be that alternatives 2A and 2C
Yes,
be advanced for further conceptual design.
So moved.
second. Public.
Yes.
That's specifically why I came tonight.
Sir, if you could, give us
Sure.
your name and where you live. Thank you.
Sure, William, last name is Woodruff, Woodruff. I'm in the Fritz Building, 601 Lancaster Avenue. I served on the Union Township Board. I worked for Hershey. I just was transferred in this territory back in November. Loved the Fritz. I remember when it was a lumber yard, way back when. The village of Berwyn is just, has really turned into quite the nice village. I would suggest some of the board members go to the old Acme parking lot and you watch the school kids cross right there. They run across and they don't know. I'm trying to think of near the Bronze Building what that road is. It's almost like a panic that they're running. And I was going to interject and say, well, the one negative is you haven't had a pedestrian accident because it's bound to happen. I don't know where all the kids' traffic has picked up. I don't know if it's St. Monica's, if it's TE or if it's Conestoga on that. But there's a lot of kids at that particular hour, and it's not. I think it's not if and when it's going to happen. There's going to be some kind of incident. I watch on at the Fritz Building. I watch. There's no way 25 is being enforced through the town of Berwyn. So even if they're going 10 miles over, that's 35 miles through the village, and you've got a lot of kids crossing. You've already addressed specifically on the Berwyn train station side that there's no sidewalk. I walk and I do my run. I go across the old bridge onto Cassette to Conestoga. And it is like, it's almost better to walk down to the train station, up the steps, and then over the bridge, as opposed to walking the gauntlet between that curb on there. And you've got new donut place that's opening up right across from my building, Pollard Donuts. So it's becoming a foodie town. You've got a number of different restaurants, and it really has turned into kind of a nice outing for a lot of families, but it's unsafe. It's very unsafe. And that's specifically why I came tonight, to tell you that it's very unsafe. And it's an accident waiting to happen. I travel through towns like Bryn Mawr, where they have the pedestrian crossing. They kind of put in a nice, markered, I don't know if they mark the macadam specifically, so it's geared towards pedestrian crossing. I don't know why we don't have pedestrian crossings through the town of Berwyn. I mean, you've got the between the Berwyn Tavern and the one brewery, you have pedestrians crossing all the time. And it's not a walk, it's a run on there. And
It seems to me that light at Midland is a really short light, because I have pulled out there.
when you say Midland, I'm not familiar.
Midland and old Lancaster.
The old bridge?
No.
By handles.
Midland.
No, it is.
is on
It is
the
very-
Short light, no wonder
It's
why
two
they're.
cars. It's
no
two
wonder-
cars.
No wonder
That's
why
correct.
they're running across, because they
Yeah.
can barely get across in that amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should look into the pedestrian crossings, right?
Is that something you could add to this?
So I had a comment also.
Look at that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm Ruth Mooney. I live at 1117 Edgewood Avenue. And I'm very close to the intersection that you're talking about with the bridge, with Bridge Avenue. And I know when I come onto Leopard Road, I always have to think, do I want to cut through the back way, or do I want to try to go Lancaster Avenue? Because Lancaster Avenue is, you have to look, is it school time or what? Because if you go out onto Lancaster Avenue, if you get in that left-hand lane, you're a dead duck. You know, you're gonna, maybe one or two cars can get over at most turning left. But And if you stay in the right-hand lane, then, there are other problems there too. But, do something about that. That intersection is horrendous. And it just ties up so many people. The kids are crossing there all the time. They do have a crossing guard, and so that helps a lot. But, and if you come out the other way, come past the fire station and then go across, that's not real great either, because that light is really short, and so then you have to scoot across really fast. That intersection really needs help. So if you don't do anything else, look at addressing that.
Just to readdressing the crossing, I think that's something that I think all have seen. Is that something that I think it's important to look at within the design as well?
Yes.
But we could do that separate from this, like this design is gonna take time.
Yes.
We could have a crossing up
Yeah,
in 6 months.
Yeah, we should look into that.
Well, that's what this will do. You will look at every one of those crossings and you will have some kind of conceptual plan.
We will, so the one thing to point
We
out.
could put a crossing in 6 months. We don't have to wait for this.
Yeah, the fastest way for a crossing is the project you have in place now.
The only thing I will offer though is Berlin Square does have an obligation for an improvement at that intersection to put in the crosswalk. There is no crosswalk on the west leg of that intersection connecting their property to the new handles. And so they will be putting in a crosswalk, and they will be putting in all the pedestrian signal equipment, and with that, you have to time the signal to give a pedestrian a certain minimum amount of green time to cross. That does not exist there today. So that will happen as part of Berlin Square should that project move forward. If Berlin Square doesn't move forward, that is something that we will be incorporating as a recommendation into alternative 2A, the signalized option. Michael, you're right. We know what needs to be done there. That could be done outside of any project with something that, it's whether the township funds it or we apply for a grant just to do that, or do we wait and let Berlin Square do it? I mean, there's a few ways that we could do that.
At the administrative level, we've been working with Bowman and Carol on updating the public improvement number for Berwyn Square. And the developers, they haven't given us the financial security document yet, which then they'll file a plan. But they've agreed on that number.
That's all baked
and it's 2.8 million, and it includes those intersection improvements that are being discussed. Not exactly like this, but as you or your predecessors approved as part of the development.
Any other public comment? Well, all in favor of advancing the proposal for 2A to 2C, they say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, departmental reports, anything highlighted,
I have nothing. We'll just stand by and answer any questions that you have for us.
any questions from the board? You good? Okay. So there's no regular business, move on to liaison work for reports, Berwyn Devon Business Association, I have not heard or had a report from them, the Citizens Education Advisory Board.
I wasn't able to attend, but I do know that they circulated a survey recently, which they got a boost from the township on. And I think the township staff is processing the survey responses.
And just to add, love the new website.
Yeah, well, pass that on to Susan.
Yeah, I've written her and told her that it's just so much more friendly, so much more modern.
And she's issued a newsletter, so she's got a e-newsletter that's going out every 2 weeks or so. And we call it Fit to Post. So every week we speak about 2 or 3 things in social media. So the presence is stronger than it's ever been for a variety of reasons, because that was what you all directed us to do.
Yeah, and I even liked when I went on, the survey popped up. Soon, first thing that popped up, and it's nice to see, like, when we have things like that, someone goes to the website, it's right in there, it's the first thing they see, is it pops up at them. They want to do that, so thank you. Okay, so moving on to the ECAC.
ECAC, I participated in that meeting. It was very interesting. They're gonna be working on forecasting a 5-year sort of budget down the road to make sure that we stay in line with our costs and.
Revenue and costs to stay in line, right?
Hmm?
They make sure that the revenue and cost match.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. EMA?
EMA discussed mostly the FSA capital payment timing. You know, that giant slug of money that we have to pay them. They wanted a pretty sizable down payment that I think we're pushing back on, and instead more on as needed basis as they need to pay for upgrades. That's what we pay them instead of just giving them, hey, here's $1.8 million and they get to sit on it for 2 years until they do work. So we're trying to be reasonable in doling out the money that we're agreeing to with that.
Yeah, so we're gonna press that. We're reviewing that with some of the other partners, and then the intention is to tell VFSA that we're gonna proceed paying the way you just described, and we'll see what they say.
Yeah. Everything else is just borrowing and budgeting debt service.
Thank you. ESC?
The meeting is tomorrow.
Finance work group?
We're meeting Wednesday, I think.
T Fire Commission?
We're meeting tomorrow, or Wednesday, actually Wednesday.
I wasn't able to go to the historical commission. John, you said it was just, they were reviewing.
Your architect presented to the HC and the concept plans for your new building, and it was wildly well received. So lots of good feedback, but later in the fall, when they're ready to go, when the architect is ready to go and see, we'll do it with HC as well for final review.
Perfect. Library Board of Trustees, Alex, you attended the meeting.
Yes.
And there's also a report in there for you to see that was sent from Amber as well.
Yeah, I think there was discussion, following discussion based on the library board's presentation about the options evaluation. So there was some more discussion about that. And a few other announcements. One of them was the Paoli Hospital donation. They started a new program. They donated like $1,000 to Paoli Hospital so that families that have a newborn, they get to take home a book, from the East Town Library and have resources to get a library card and that sort of stuff. So
Did they hear back anything from the school board about the idea notion of the property?
I think they were still at the point where they needed to initiate those discussions, but we had.
I have an update on that.
Sure.
They met, were you involved? No.
Yes.
They met with the chairman of the board or so somebody there. And then apparently went to the finance group and they said it will be on the agenda, right, for the main school board meeting. That's what I got.
I can add to that. There was a meeting afterwards. Some people were against it, some people for it, and they forwarded night in June. It's going to be taken up.
So June 4th, it'll be on the agenda for the full school board meeting. So I'm gonna go because I'm gonna present our view that you should do it. I think that's our view. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I'm not gonna present our view. I'm going as an individual to present my view that they should do it. Just to be very clear.
Okay.
One more thing about the library. Every year, the Chester County Library System has a breakfast. It's usually in April or May. I think we're all invited. I've gone the past 2 years. I encourage you to go. It's a great experience to get to meet and see what the rest of the county is doing with libraries and everything. Is really fascinating. It's also, it's great to see how much we support our library and how much Trudetton supports their library. We are exemplary in supporting our library. I think it's fantastic to see that.
I had RSVP to that breakfast and then I was sick that week, so I
Oh, no. Yeah.
we encourage you to see you there.
Yeah.
Next year.
Yep.
All right, Parks and Rec.
Correct, we're very excited about the 4th of July thing coming up soon. Hope everybody comes. Band is all set. And that's about it.
And they're in the Bronx Plaza.
The band's gonna be, we're gonna have one of them, two of them gonna be there in the Bronx?
Yes, so June 10 and June 7, June 17, June 24, we have bands on the process.
Oh, is that summer concerts area?
Yes.
Pension worker.
Yeah, it met. And standardized reports if you want to, following along with all the things that are happening in the world.
Planning commission,
Didn't be, it was canceled.
police work.
We met casually, we talked about some things we got out tonight so that they're using the money for, yeah, which, great things, and they're just, everything they do is fantastic. Good group,
Public works worker.
We met, talked about a number of things. I think one thing that we're gonna talk about finance group is this whole idea of, secondary meters and stuff, so that may come up. Sometime in the future, we can have a discussion about that.
Stormwater management.
It was canceled.
Okay, so any other public comment? Announcements that we found on the website. And is there any other board comment?
Executive session?
Yeah, expectation of an executive session.
The executive session based on personnel or litigation.
I was in it.
Are there any other exceptions?
I was gonna say, it's like, it's long.
There are some more general stuff. I think.
Second.
We're not using the FAA exception.
Yeah,